When Marcus and his wife, Erin, moved into their new home in Salem, Massachusetts, they thought they'd found a dream. It was a restored colonial house 2 stories tall, with wide plank floors and fireplaces in nearly every room. Erin loved the old world charm, and Marcus loved that they'd gotten it for far less than similar houses in the neighborhood. The real estate agent had brushed it off when Marcus asked why the price was so low. Old homes carry old stories, she'd said with a laugh, but nothing to worry about. Locals like to keep legends alive. For the first few weeks, everything seemed perfect. Erin decorated with antique furniture she picked up at flea markets, and Marcus spent weekends fixing up the backyard. But then they started to hear it. It began softly, like a faint murmur after sundown. At first, they thought it was neighbors talking outside. Yet the sound didn't come from the street. It came from inside the house. One night, Marcus was reading in the study when he heard it clearly. Whispers, low and urgent, seeping from the corners of the room. He froze. The words were impossible to understand, overlapping like a crowd speaking all at once. When he stood and switched on every light, the whispers stopped. He didn't tell Erin, not then, but a week later, Erin came down to the kitchen in the middle of the night, pale and shaking. "Marcus," she whispered, clutching his arm. Someone was talking in the bedroom, right by my side of the bed. Marcus's stomach sank. Now they both were hearing it. They tried to rationalize it. Old pipes, drafts, even the wind slipping through the chimney. But the whispers grew louder. Some nights they came from the attic. Other times they floated up through the vents in the floorboards. And sometimes they seemed to follow them from room to room. One evening, Erin was folding laundry in the upstairs hall when she screamed. Marcus rushed up to find her staring into the darkened guest room. "I saw a shadow," she said, her voice trembling. "It was standing in the corner. And Marcus," it whispered my name. They called in a local historian, a man who'd written books about Salem's darker past. When he stepped into their home, he grew noticeably tense. "This house," he said, running a hand along the old banister, "was built in the early 1700s. It belonged to a family accused of practicing witchcraft. The father was hanged, the mother disappeared, and their children were said to waste away. No one really knows what happened to them." Marcus laughed uneasily. "You're saying it's haunted?" The historian didn't smile. "Some people claim whispers follow anyone who lives here. Shadows too. Always just out of sight." That night, Marcus insisted they sleep with the lights on. It didn't help. The shadows still came. Erin began to change. She grew restless, pale, and quiet. Marcus often found her standing in dark rooms, staring at nothing, lips moving like she was answering some unseen voice. "Erin, who are you talking to?" he asked once, heart hammering. She blinked, confused, and whispered, "They just want me to listen." Marcus finally recorded the sounds one night, setting his phone on the dresser. When he played it back the next morning, his stomach turned cold. The whispers were clear, layered voices, overlapping in a dozen tones, saying his wife's name over and over. That was the breaking point. He told Erin they needed to leave, but she refused. "It's their house," she said, her eyes strangely distant. "They were here first. They don't want you, Marcus. They want me." The final night, Marcus woke to find Aaron's side of the bed empty. The whispers were everywhere now, swarming, echoing from the walls. He stumbled through the house, calling her name. He found her in the attic. She was standing in the corner, surrounded by shadows that seemed to shift and breathe, darker than the rest of the room. Her lips moved, repeating something he couldn't hear. "Aaron," he shouted, rushing toward her. The shadows pulled back, but the whispers grew deafening, filling his head like a scream. Aaron turned to him, eyes wide and glassy, and whispered, "They don't want to leave." Marcus dragged her out of the attic, and they left that night with nothing but the clothes on their backs. They never returned to the house. When Marcus tried to sell it, the realtor stopped returning his calls. Eventually, the listing vanished. Today, the house still stands on that quiet Salem street. The windows are dark, the yard unkempt. Neighbors say they hear things at night, soft voices spilling into the street when no one's inside. And sometimes when the wind is just right, a shadow crosses the upstairs window, waiting.